Hey guys, welcome back to The Thinking Shooter. On this episode, we're going to talk about how do we go from a whole bunch of parts and bags and plastic to a complete Glock 43 slide. Stay tuned. Hey guys, like I said in the introduction, we're going to talk about how to build up a pistol slide for a Glock 43X so we can go from this to this. But before we get going too far, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below so you can stay tuned for more content in the future. All right, we're pretty much going to jump straight into this and not waste too much time. But first, I want to point out that this specifically applies to the Glock 42, 43, 43X, and 48 pistols. While they are mostly similar to the full-size lineup from Glock, there are a few differences in the slimline series of pistols. All right, so as I said in the introduction, this specifically applies to the Glock Slimline series, which is the 42, the 43, the 43X, and the 48 series of pistols. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and inspect all the parts, make sure that I have everything that's required to put this thing together, but I'm also going to inspect them, make sure everything's in good shape. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and start grouping in like parts. So I'm putting all of your subgroups together. So everything that goes with the striker assembly. Right now, as you can see, I'm putting the EDP together. The extractor depressor plunger. I put the extractor depressor, the spring for it, and the load bearing on it. And then I got the safety plunger. I set the spring with it, and later on in the video, you'll see I actually put a little bit of grease on it to help hold it in place. And then I'm putting all the parts for the striker assembly together. I'm not assembling, I'm just putting them in the same area so I can get to it later, and I know everything is there. So now I'm going to pull out the slide and the barrel so I can inspect those. And so what I'm looking for is to see if there's any major manufacturing defects that would cause there to be issues running. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the lockup in the barrel. So I drop a dummy round in and insert it into the slide and push it up, hold it like it would be in battery, and I'm going to push and see if there's any wiggle or movement. That'll give me an idea of what the lockup is like. Looks like everything's good there. So now I'm going to inspect the barrel itself. So I'm trying to remember to keep things in frame because I'm standing off to the side of the camera. But now I'm looking under the lugs. I'm checking around the feed ramp. I'm checking the top of the hood and check the muzzle, make sure there's no issues. There's that nice chamfered crown there. And then the slide itself, as you can see, I'm hitting it with a punch. And what that does is if it rings, gives a nice steady ring to it, it means it's in good shape. If there's a dull like ding and it stops, then there's a crack. So I'm just looking everything over. I'm checking to see how things are looking. And now I'm getting everything set up so I can run my sights in, because that's the first thing I do whenever I start a slide build, is I go ahead and get the sights on. So as you can see, there's a rear sight with the set screw. There's a front sight with the locking screw. I've got some cheap Walmart brake parts cleaner that I'm going to use to degrease everything before I put thread lock on it. For the front sight, I use red Loctite or red thread locker, whether it's Permatex or Loctite brand. It doesn't matter, just some type of, preferably one of those two brands. But that's what I use as far as the thread locker. I just put just a little bit on. Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera to focus here. But I put the side on. There's the front of it. See that big bead right there. Then there's the back. You can see if my camera will focus. There's kind of serrations on it. Help cut down on glare. But you push this in place. And then you just start screwing this in. You want to hold the front sight in place, because though the Glock front sights will drop into a specific slot, they can still kind of kind of wiggle just left or just right. So I'll check it and correct it as I go. But right now I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I'll fix all that later. So now I put some degreaser on a Q-tip cotton swab, and I'm degreasing the threads, and I'm getting this pushed into place to get it started to go into my sight pusher here. So like I said, I'm getting this set up. Now I'm pushing. And as you can see, I've got it pretty much centered as far as, you know, looking at it, eyeballing it here. So what I'm looking for is on either side of the rear sight, I'm trying to make sure that the edge of either side of the rear sight is lined up with the top little slot there on the edge of the dovetail on the slide. If you guys are interested, I can do a specific video on how to actually install sights on a pistol. But now I'm cleaning out that set screw hole in that rear sight because some of the Cerakote pushed up whenever I was pushing the slide on. So I degreased it again, and then I was scraping out some of make sure there was no Cerakote or anything stuck in the threads. And on the rear sight, I like to use blue thread lock. I accidentally put too much on here, but don't worry, I'll clean up the excess. I'll take a Q-tip and just kind of dab it and soak up the excess there. So now I'm going to install it. And like I said, I like to use blue because whenever I go to actually sight it in left and right, I still want to be able to back it out on the range. But what I'm doing is I'm gonna set this all the way down. I'm gonna screw it in, and I'm gonna lock it in pretty tight, and then I'm gonna back it off and unscrew it, and then re-screw it back in to ensure that I got full coverage of the threads with Loctite or thread locker. And then I just turn it to the little short arm and cinch it down a touch. Now I'm going to take a little bit of oil and touch up any of the spots that got hit with some degreaser to make sure they don't dry out and rust. So here, like I said in the beginning, I'm putting a little bit of grease on the safety plunger to help it stay in the actual safety plunger. I'm putting it on the safety plunger spring to help it stay in the safety plunger there. That's a little trick you can do anytime you have springs that go into something else that, you know, are kind of hard to deal with. So now we're going to assemble the striker assembly. So what I'm showing you here is the striker sleeve, and you see there's a notch cut in it. You want to make sure that that piece is sitting to where the tail of your striker can ride through that slot. And now I've got the spring. Just set it on and then find something that you can push the tail against, and then just start working that spring down. And then you're going to take the little cups and you're just going to install one on one side, the other on the other, make sure they fit, and then slowly let the spring capture those cups. And there you go. It's really that easy. It's not hard. So now we're going to assemble the slide. So what I'm doing is I just put the safety plunger in. As you can see, I'm pointing at it with my punch. You can actually see the plunger sticking down. So you push it up, and then you drop your extractor in, and you see it'll stay in place once you get it set right. And then you drop your EDP assembly in, and you can actually see the tail of it pushing against the extractor itself. My camera will focus here, but there it is. And here, I'll pull it out a little. See, it's gone. There's nothing there. And then you push it down, and there it is again. You see that little silver thing. So now we're going to take your striker assembly and push that in place. So to put on the back plate, just set it with the silver things up on the ends, start pushing against it, push the sleeve of your striker assembly, and then switch to a different punch and push down the little EDP button. That's actually your load bearing. So once we got it together, I'm going to check your fitment with everything together. I just take a dummy round and I lock it up underneath the extractor and then push it in place and make sure everything's good. No issues there. And then I ended up putting the recoil spring in. I didn't show you guys that, but we're going to now swap the slide. So I don't have any ammo in the mag. I'm going to take and push up on the slide catch or the slide lock, whatever. Inspect it again, no magazine, no ammunition present. I'm going to send the slide forward, squeeze the trigger, and I'm going to pull back just slightly on the slide, pull down on your slide lock, pull the slide off, and now just put your new slide on, just start it from the rear, and then push the slide on and hold the slide catch back. Again, checking, making sure there's nothing present, send the slide forward, squeeze trigger. I'm function checking now to make sure everything works right, there's no issues. Now that I've got it together, now I'm going to do a function check with a dummy round. So I'm going to put the dummy round in a magazine, insert the magazine into the pistol, send the slide forward, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger and rack the slide, make sure I get good ejection and that the slide stayed back on an empty mag. It's that simple, guys. Alright guys, here it is, the finished product. As you just saw, we inspected all the parts and got everything assembled. This is the ZPS.P ported RMSC slide in sniper gray Cerakote with the flush and crowned ported G43/43X barrel with a black nitride finish. I'd like to give a very special thank you to our sponsors, Zafiri Precision, for setting all this out. And I'd also like to give a thank you out to you guys for watching and subscribing to the channel, because you guys help make this possible. Anyway, that concludes today's video. If you're looking to retrofit or build a Glock or SIG P320 or P365 pistol, head over to Zafiri Precision and check them out. I'll leave a link to their website down below in the comments, since YouTube doesn't like us leaving links in the description to gun stuff, but you know, whatever. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something, but as always, guys, make it make sense. Later.